Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone. And now, here is your host, the lovely, delightful, insightful, and all-around great gal, Ms. Barbara DeLong.
He and his wife, Deborah New Moon, have an amazing website. It's called nativestorytellers.com. Please visit them and check out their CDs and all of the wonderful material they have to share. They are amazing people. So tonight, I have a treat, not only for you, but for me as well. We have Solaris back with us, and let me just give you a little of her background. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I can't pronounce most of the words, but Solaris BlueRaven has been on the golden path of mysticism for 22 years. She's a spiritual facilitator and healer. She is the founder and high priestess elder for the BlueRaven Celestial Order of Light, a light workers network for spiritual healers and teachers and those wishing to walk the golden path of enlightenment. She's an elder initiate in the orders of Melchizedek, YHWH, and Metatron. She teaches many ancient systems of healing, such as Reiki and Blue Star Celestial, Egyptian Cartouche, Daughters of Isis, Sacred Dove, Shakti, Shaman Rainforest, Archangel Healing Rays, Ascension Activation, and Atlantean and Arcturian Etheric Surgery. She's a multi-universal empathic channel and Ascension Timeline intuitive. She's also a spiritual channel for Palladian and Arcturian Ascension Timelines, and in her spare time, she does radio shows. Welcome to the show, Solaris.
Thank you. And that's interesting listening to that bio. That's my bio before I was inducted. So yeah. Yes, indeed. And thank you for having me on.
Oh, and the other thing that I do want to point out is that she has some amazing books out there. So I encourage everybody to check her out, especially her one on transformation and ascension.
Yes, transmutation through ascension.
Yeah, thank you. It's a fabulous book. I have stolen most of her material and used it, absolutely shamelessly, and people are always, actually, I just buy your book usually and just give it away.
Aw, well, thank you.
No, it's a phenomenal book. It's an easy read, and every time you read through it, you learn something new, which is the way a good book should be.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it inspires people. What was the intent behind it?
It sure as heck inspired me.
Well, good.
So we have survived
the solar
eclipse.
Right, I know. Oh, goodness. Did you watch it?
Well, how could you not?
Yeah, some people didn't. That's why I was asking.
Oh, yeah, I did. And I wasn't in a place where I really saw that much. I was only in the 50% range. Mm-hmm. So it got a little bit dark, and then it got light pretty fast. So it was not as phenomenal as people who the stars came out for. So there's another one in 7 years that hits the U.S., and I may well travel to go see that one because I can't imagine what it's like to have nighttime hit like that and be able to see.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. It'd be really pretty, that kind of twilight. No doubt. Yeah, I didn't get the total eclipse either, but it was still beautiful over here in
Oh,
Colorado. So yeah.
oh yeah, no, you know what I find amazing is when things like this happen, all of the doomsday people come out and it's, you know, it's a warning of this or it's a warning of that or the end is near or all of the above. And it always amazes me, you know, what happens to them? I mean, do they put their signs away for the next catastrophe or the next big thing so that they can pull them out again? Because you know, the end is always near, I guess, depending on your perspective. But the end of the world is not happening. The world is going to go on. I mean, I know you know that there have been civilizations here on this continent for the last 9,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
right. Yeah.
and
It's a continuation.
You know, and
yeah.
they,
Nothing. Go ahead.
And you know, they flourish and then they go down for one reason or another, and then they disappear, and they're forgotten. And
yeah.
and it's so sad because, you know, in essence, that means that will happen to us.
Right. Yeah. That's always asked myself, you know, in 100 years, will it really matter? You know, will any of this matter in 100 years? That's my benchmark. But I think that cellular memory is what's always there, because even the work that I do, the work you do, or anybody else, once you access your multidimensional design work, you know, everything that I do here is based on my celestial heritage. Really, I really realize that now more than ever. So it's always been there before I even showed up in this body. You know.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that you know, forget whatever college degrees I have. What I have learned from myself. I have pulled it from inside of me. It's my spiritual development. It's the spirit within that has taught me everything that I do, say, and am at this moment in time. And so I get, in a way, you're right. You know, the spirit is what goes forward in time. So therefore, you know, we do have the knowledge of all of this, but it has always been of concern to me. You know, the 5,000 years ago, the pyramids were there. I think probably longer than that, but we'll give them 5,000 years. And if you wiped out our society, we have built nothing that would stand the test of 5,000 years.
I agree.
There would be no memory of present day civilization except for perhaps the scars we've left upon the earth. So, you know, what is our message? What is our gift? There should be a gift for every generation. Maybe Mount Rushmore would survive, but
I don't
even
even think
so,
that. You know what I
well,
think the gift is? I think the gift is disclosure. I think the gift is us taking down the false matrix while we're here, because we've had century and century and century after deception, you know, false programs, false indoctrination, you know, how we talk about how everything's been edited and censored and swept away. I think that what's going on here on the timeline is kind of unique, because it seems to me like we're all awakened to a point where we're actually ripping away the fabric that's been deceiving everyone. So maybe that's the gift.
well, that would be really great if we truly can get down to the bare bones, because and it's really funny. I have some friends that think, you know, every time something is revealed, it's like, aha, finally, that's all the truth. And all I say is, are you kidding me? Do you think that these superficial epidermal lies are really what lays at the bottom of the stuff that's going on this planet? I mean, if they were that stupid, they could only, you know, hide them that deep, then they aren't who I think they are. So it seems that, you know, we scrape away a little bit and then everybody says, okay, that's it. And that's not it. And I keep saying there's more. And I have some friends that I think are going to stop talking to me real soon.
Oh, well, that's all right. Agree to disagree.
Oh no! Oh yes, no. They aren't those kind of friends. They would we agree to disagree on lots of things and move on. But when it comes to spiritual awakening, spiritual growth, spiritual ascension, I think we're at a point in time where spirit is taking us into new levels and dimensions in spite of ourselves. And I am so delighted to see people awakening and reaching for things that at one time they would have said, oh God, no, that's the devil's stuff, you know. So things like the the remote viewing that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's done in the astral body. That's done in a level of spirit that people don't normally play with, and there's so many people that are doing the remote viewings, and it's really very exciting to see the feedback and see the change in some people, and to see the fact that they're sharing information. It's really a kind of exciting time.
Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that they're changing their focus from maybe, regular drama and the illusion of to something more productive, which would be that. So instead of getting distracted by the mainstream propaganda and crap, they're focusing their energy and psychic ability, which I think is fantastic.
Well, it is, and I think that by doing that, they're able to see more easily, more clearly, the fact that there are so many news networks and things like that have agendas. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that sometimes you're able to see more of the total picture by watching them fight between themselves. And I think what upsets me is that there are no news channels out there anymore. They're all propaganda.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And then it's like, well, where do we look for the truth? And that age-old thing of, well, it's within.
Yep, absolutely.
What do you see? What do you believe? Mm-hmm. So
follow your own course. That's what I would say. Usually connected to the celestial compass of the universe. But yeah, even before there was a lot of the propaganda with mainstream television, I can remember I never really watched a whole lot of mainstream TV anyway, or news. Actually, very rarely even back in the day. And then I used to read the newspaper now and then, but mostly do the crossword puzzles. So, I look back. I mean, I don't even know if they deliver newspapers anymore, but that's how dated things feel these days.
I think they do, but I think it's more of a online thing.
Oh, okay.
Most people go online, whether it's to some of the public access type stuff and things like that. Mm-hmm. But it's really getting more and more difficult to be able to tell. I mean, at least with these riots and everything that are going on, and it's really funny because when I did my predictions for this year, I said, between September and December that there would be riots, there would be uprisings, and they've started early, and I don't know why. I mean, I saw it coming and I wrote it down, but at the same time, I don't understand why. I don't understand, what do these people have that is so wrong with life that they need to be destructive about it?
Right. I agree with you. I think it's programming. I really do. I just think they're triggered and programmed.
And I'm going to go political, which I don't usually do, but I feel that the taking down of statues of Civil War people is sacrilege. I think it's part of our history, and I think to destroy our history like that is to deny that it happened.
I agree. Well, and I have ancestors that fought on both wars. I mean, they came over on the Mayflower on my mother's side, and they were in every war from the Revolution up. Mm-hmm. So, and I know that one of my ancestors was very close to Robert E. Lee. I know that because everyone in my family was named after Robert E. Lee. So, I don't know what to say anymore when I look at this stuff because it's just so stupid. I mean, what they're doing is just ridiculous. Souls and spirits and bodies, people have experiences on the timeline. Don't punish them forever. Don't call these people horrible names. They have statues of, and my ancestors, I have connections to presidents, I'm related to 5 presidents, even Thomas Jefferson. And I'm like, oh, I see, so the descendants of the forefathers get attacked as well. Is that it? It's just crazy. It really, really is.
Yeah, no, I know Sylvia Brown predicted that there would be new parties that came out and that the government would shift and change by 2020. And it does look like that's going to happen to a certain extent.
Right.
But given enough flexibility, we'll survive it all.
Well, it seems to me like every time they say it's going to be gloom and doom or somebody's going to, launch a nuke, something happens. I swear I don't believe a darn thing. I mean, anything can happen. Sure, it's like spin the wheel. It's like Russian roulette. When push comes to shove, I don't think there are any. I don't know. I just don't think there are any bullets in the gun. You know what I mean? Or shooting with
Well,
blanks?
I kind of hope so. I just, there's been enough of that going on.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve any purpose. And
Mhm.
I don't think the population needs to be culled that much at all, if at
Mhm.
all. And it is, aren't there other things we can focus on?
Well, I think there should be a breakaway society for those of us who are very advanced in consciousness and want to go to another planet. I think we should be able to leave. That's what I'm looking at. A physical departure from this world for those who want to break orbit with a higher collective of consciousness and also do what we call like the Melchizedek traveling, where you're traveling through other star systems and actually just communicating with other beings. I think that is highly probable, actually. I think that is a possibility. Another thing I want to ask you about, which has really been kind of interesting, I've been looking at, I don't know what's going on other than the fact that it feels to me like we are 20 years backwards. Like, in other words, we're not in 2017. It feels like this is like 20 years ago. Do you ever get that or no?
Yeah, I do. And it's really funny because my dreams lately have been going back 20 years.
Well,
And
that's interesting because I've been feeling like, I don't know why, but it just feels to me like we're out of time and the illusion of, I know time is a benchmark of measure, but I feel like they've done something to create maybe a time slip. I don't know. It just feels different to me. It doesn't feel like we're going forward at all.
or maybe we're being held in place so that either others can catch up or we can review what we've done and maybe make some changes
Possible.
because changes are definitely necessary. There is no doubt about this at all. And uh, to how we treat each other, to our philosophies, the way we absolutely live our lives, the way we walk our talk. I think the problem is so many talk it, but they don't walk it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say walk the talk, people just look at you, and it's like I try to explain that you may know a philosophy, you may be able to quote a chapter and verse, but if you're not living it, you can't claim it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's all experience too. And there are a lot of copycats. I touched on that before, where they just read the internet, and that's great and all, but you still have to experience. You have to do it. You have to get out there and do ritual, do practices, do martial arts, do train. So it's not one of these things where you can just say, oh, this looks great, I'm going to do this. But yeah, I agree with you. You have to have the experience and actually put your energy into it and learn and grow and evolve.
Now, I wanted to ask you about the Melchizedek experience that you have, because I'm initiated in the priesthood of Melchizedek.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it seems to me that your involvement is in a different way, but with the same philosophy. So, can you explain what your Melchizedek background is?
Melchizedek was a long time ago. I went into an initiation with someone who was a master of Melchizedek, and he was also
Mm-hmm.
kind of a walk-in, and initiated about 7 of us into this Melchizedek program. And it's basically about galactic consciousness. It's really just about connecting into the Godhead, the Melchizedek, and
Mm-hmm.
into what we call the higher self oversoul, and just descending into that pillar of light. It's just another extension of ascension from what I learned from it, but bringing the energies in from the galactic celestial energies, but also teaching the language of what we call geometric light languages as healing. So we would use the Melchizedek formula for healing modalities with frequency and sound and some other things that we were doing. It might be very, very different than what you were doing, but the Melchizedeks that I remember were very, very powerful. The initiation was extremely powerful. And then when I started doing the Melchizedek initiations, they became extremely powerful for the groups I was working with. So as we progressed in our spiritual design work, the Melchizedek energy was there to fortify us, shield us, and help us and assist us in teaching the language of light, but also healing. So that's what I was doing with Melchizedek. It's not the same as some of the other stuff that people went, I don't think it is anyway, but it was a true Melchizedek frequency and certainly was part of that program in the way the design work worked.
Yeah, it was probably a different person, but I must say that when I had the initiation, it knocked my socks off, and that's hard to do.
Yeah, no, they're very powerful. I don't know if you
And
saw a lot of violets or not, but I saw a lot of gold and violet colors, really strong. I don't know if you had the visuals, but yeah, they're strong.
I did, and I was absolutely it was like a massive hot flash,
Mm-hmm.
and I lost track of the room. I lost track of everything, and I was in another place. And when it was time for me to go back to where I was sitting, the girl next to me said, "What was you?" She said, "You disappeared," and I said, "I know."
Wow.
And we watched as other people, went through it, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody else disappeared. And I asked him later, I said, they say I disappeared. He said, well, you went to a different level. And
Oh, nice.
and that's all he said.
Mhm.
And it was like, thanks.
Isn't that interesting?
I
Well, it
said,
depends
"Do
on
you
how,
wanna-"
how, oh, go ahead.
No, I said, do you want to explain that? And he said, no, you'll understand it when the time is right. So, I hate those kind of answers.
No, those are good, but you know what it is that you're very advanced to begin with. So when you receive initiation, you go to higher levels than most people. That makes sense. The same thing happened to me when I was going through my initiations too, the Enochi initiations and all the other initiations I've gone through. I mean, they were powerful, very,
Mhm.
very powerful. I mean, you're talking about light body getting shot out of it, like getting shot out of a cannon with the energies that are connected in.
Well, and when I was initiated in the Reiki, the different levels of Reiki, I also had that same feeling that there's something else going on here. It's almost as though they were allowing you to take you from where you were and putting you up further. And it wasn't a matter of trying to keep everybody at the same place. It was opening a portal so you could move, so that you could ascend.
Yeah, to what degree you've already done the spiritual work and then you just leap. No, I totally agree. And when I received my initiations with Reiki, I remember I was seeing mist everywhere for weeks. I was
Mhm.
seeing all different colors and mist. And at the time it was really weird because I was working corporate, so I had to try to ground, and work in this corporate environment while I was all channeling all this energy. But I swear to you, I'd look around my cubicle and there'd be like mist everywhere. I'd be like, where is this mist coming from? But it was part of the initiation. But very powerful. I'm telling you, anybody who doesn't believe in that stuff, I'm telling you, you get the right teacher and you're prepared for those things, they are powerful.
Oh
No
gosh,
doubt.
yeah. And I can remember looking around, kind of going into a meditation at one point, and I was in my kitchen and there was nobody here. And when I opened my eyes, I took my glasses off, I cleaned them. It looked like the place was full of fog. I opened the windows so it could clear out it. And I thought, oh God, the house is on fire. And, it was none of that. It did clear eventually, but it was like, what the blue blazes was that? And the cats were sitting here watching me like, why are you doing that? That was fun. They were, but animals are mystical. Animals enjoy that kind of energy, and it's really quite profound. But there's so much going on that is of a profound level, and it's so sad if people miss it. It's so sad if people don't take the time to get to the place inside of themselves to be able to see these kind of things. I tell people all the time, if you're open spiritually, there is a greater vibrancy to your life than you have ever known before. And it's magical, and I call it magic because it is celestial, it's galactic, it's cosmic, it's just beyond the imagination. It's like there are new colors,
Oh yeah, it's just a different orbit completely. It's a different paradigm. Yeah, it's beautiful to live in those energies. And I noticed the more I started growing and evolving, the more electric I became, more photon electric. I mean, my light body was just so kicked in and so switched on, and then it just started getting stronger and stronger. And then I started seeing things from, the mist was part of the Reiki initiation and all that master teacher. But then later on, when I went into other areas and started really pursuing other different formulas for healing, I started to see more energy. Like it was just like energy frequencies. I could actually see energy moving, and it was just really amazing in frequency. When you're starting to change your vibration, everything changes around you, as you probably know. So it was very interesting to experience that.
Well, it's exciting, and and please, I want everybody to understand us. We are still learning and growing too. It isn't that we have gotten to a place where we can stop and talk about these processes and think we've gathered it all, because there's always another step ahead. And so many people say, and I think my latest thing is people who say, well, I'm a psychic, and now I respond, well, if that's all you want to be, then that's fine. But there's just so much more. And
it's
I don't even call myself a psychic anymore. When somebody really puts their thumb on me and says, well, what do you do? I say I teach. I'm a teacher.
Oh, that's good. I'm at the point where I'm going to tell people I'm an off-worlder, because it's pretty much what I am. But yeah, no, I get it. It's just one of those terminologies that helps people along the way. But yeah, they're designed to actually learn and grow too. And the whole idea behind that is to assist people in activating themselves so they're able to do these things and grow.
Absolutely.
That's the whole idea. That's what I am. I'm an empowerer. I'm not the one to sit there and want to make people codependent on me. I'm trying to get people up to speed. You know, that was always my design work behind everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
hopefully I still do that.
Well, I'm sure you do. I mean, you're
Yep.
still here, so you must
A different
be still
formula.
doing it.
Yeah, I'm still doing it in a different formula, I think. You know,
Well,
mixed with the covert technology and stuff like that. But yeah.
I think, you know, all of us have to, you know, keep adjusting, keep learning, keep growing. And certainly, I know that I with the remote viewing, we've gone to some very unusual places, and it does feel as though there is interdimensional stuff there. And nobody seems freaked out by it, which is what fascinates me. I would have thought they would have been a little bit spooked by it, but apparently not.
No, they're probably prepared for it psychically, energetically. That's the good part. Plus, you're a good guide. You're a good tour guide for that sort of thing, you know.
Well,
well, you are.
learning.
You're a good energy for them to work around and with, so that helps quite a bit.
Well, you know, I put all of the remote viewing things on the blog so that anybody who wants to can go and listen to all of them and do them and leave their feedback. And I did that because, you know, this was, I've led meditations for probably 30 or 35 years, but this is a different kind of meditation. So the first one was pretty rough, but you know, we're getting better and better as we go along. And I think it's important for everybody to realize that no matter how expert somebody seems, when they're starting a new anything, they screw up. And you know, to have that there for people to say, look at that, look at what she did. You know, the phone went off, or somebody's weed whacking, or you know, whatever. I think, you know, my growth is a great teaching tool for other people to say, okay, if I mess up, Barbara did it, so it's not all that bad. She's still out there. So it's kind of, it's fun. And this next Friday, we're going to the moon.
Are you really? I've got to plug into that one. That should be fun.
We're going to the side of the moon we can see, and then the following week we will go to the dark side.
Cool. Very nice. Oh, that's going to be fun.
Yeah,
I have to catch up. I told you I was behind. I've been so many different things at once, but I do see your emails, so I've got to catch up again.
No, it's all there.
Catching up. I was catching up, and then
it's out there, so anybody can do it whenever they want to, or they can pick and choose which ones they want to go into. It's all on the blog. So I figure if I keep the blog up to date, then you know, everybody can experience whatever they need to whenever they need to.
I think it's great. You know, people have some downtime just to go focus on that. Like I said, it's a nice detour through something more productive than versus what they're usually doing throughout the day. Well,
I think that the meditations are only like 15 or 20 minutes, so they're not excessively long.
Right.
And what I am finding most fascinating, just for my own whatever, is that I'm learning a lot about these places firsthand, so that I can put the information out there for people, so that it is a learning tool as well. I mean, for the first emperor, I didn't know half the stuff that I know now about the first emperor of Japan and his tomb. And we did Monk's Mound last Friday. And I didn't know about Monk's Mound either.
No, I haven't done any work on that one at all. That sounds interesting, though.
And its base is bigger than the Great Pyramid in Egypt.
Oh, wow. That's
and
amazing.
They were pyramid-ish, but they lived on top of them. They didn't have stuff inside of them, except they used 8 or 9 different colors of earth to construct them.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And I mean, there is on both of them, there's information as to what I could find on them as far as basic stuff, so people would kind of have an idea as to where we were going. But it's always an adventure, and I'm learning so much from it that in some ways it doesn't matter if I know people are listening, because I do see the numbers, but a lot of times it's an archive. But it's an experience for me to sort of tap into some of these ancient sites and learn a little bit more about them so that I have a better working knowledge of our culture and the cultures that came before it. Did you know I had Rick Osman on a while back? Have you had him on?
No, not yet. I've got to get him on.
Oh, he's amazing. And his book, The Graves of the Golden Bear, he talks about the cultures that were here on this continent 9,000 years ago.
Very
and
interesting.
The one thing, I knew about the giants. I did not know that there was an entire civilization of little people, fully developed.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, fully developed, between 2 and 4 feet tall.
Wow.
And they dug up tens of thousands of the bodies. And of course, they were sent to the Smithsonian. So there's no evidence of them anymore. But, and they said most of the bodies were fully developed and 40 to 70 years old.
Very interesting. I've heard that, I've heard it more and more about the little people in the United States too. I've heard other stories about them. So yeah. I don't think they're extinct though. I think they're still around, aren't they?
I would hope so. I know Mary Joyce has some material out there on a college that she discovered some tunnels and stuff that the little people had constructed.
Right, yeah. And I hear people talking about the little people like that's they're mischievous, and I don't know if it's the same kind of little people, but elemental types. That kind of yeah.
And these I think originated from Ireland, and but we're talking tens of thousands of them. So I'm not sure, how I can't imagine. Of course, you can get a lot on a boat, but when you think of the size of the boats that were coming across that ocean, they were only 70 feet long. They weren't huge boats.
Right. Well, what about little people as in midget types? Is that the same? Would that be the same, like maybe lineage?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
These are, I don't think they're not dwarfs. They would have to be midgets. They were probably midgets, and yet there were tribes of them that were more like trolls and hobbits, and there were hobbits in the Hawaiian Islands. That
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So things. I am finding that everything that people have been talking to us about being science fiction are just things that science can't explain. So they label them fiction, but the reality is they're truthful, and that sooner or later science is going to have to acknowledge them.
I agree. Yeah, totally. Yeah, if we really knew the history of everything, it would be very, very fascinating. That's the problem. Everything is coming in pieces or little bits here and there, trying to piece it all together.
What I love is that it's starting to come out. I mean, that the Smithsonian intentionally has destroyed so much evidence and information is a little horrifying. And there are people out there that say, oh, the Smithsonian would never do that. Yes, it would. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. They did. They did with the giants. Yeah, just talk to Jason Gerald. If he hasn't been on your show, you should have him on.
I think I have him scheduled. But
excellent. Yeah, he's great.
Jason Gerald. I thought I had him. I may have him scheduled.
Okay. If you don't, you need to get him scheduled because he definitely knows that he knows just about everything about the giants. He's been doing some extensive research with the Adena culture and very fascinating stuff. But yeah, he was the one that was talking about the Smithsonian destroying all these giant skeletons. So yeah, it's amazing. What a disservice.
Oh, yeah, and you begin to wonder why. What's the point? I mean, it's very similar to what our government did with UFOs, doing a study saying that the populace would not be able to handle the truth, so that they didn't release information to us. That's hogwash. I mean, that's what they did.
It's insulting.
Yes, it is. It is. And
I mean, they're our ancestors, okay? So it's kind of like, they're just middlemen trying to interfere.
You do begin to wonder, because religion destroyed knowledge to keep people afraid of them. And governments have destroyed knowledge to keep people under control. I don't think the general population has any idea the level to which they have been lied to and kept in the dark.
I agree. Yeah, and I don't even know if they care, to be honest with you, Barbara. I'm wondering how many people really care if their history's been robbed from them. I know I care, but I'm not. I'm kind of an investigator anyway. So some people just seem to just be happy plugging along.
Well, I have a grandson who's 14, and his mother was talking to me about how he was learning the history of this country, and I said, "Really? Have they gone into the copper mines up in Minnesota and Michigan that have been mined for the last 9,000 years?" And his mother is a very well-educated lady, and she said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, this country's had cultures in it for the last 9,000 years." And she said, "Well, no, the Pilgrims came over, and the Indians were here, and they were,
bother.
And I said, I'm so embarrassed. I will not utter her name because she really believed that.
Uh-huh.
And it's like I'm going to go visit them, and I'm taking a copy of her Cosmos book, and I'm going to give it to her, and I'm going to say, "Please read this so that you don't appear to be an idiot when your son finds it when your son finds out the truth."
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, exactly. Well, some of the crap they're teaching kids in school. Well, you were a teacher, you know that, but I mean, my goodness.
I am
And now,
horrified.
now they're going to just erase everything. So what? Robert E. Lee was never born. He never existed. Is that it?
Well, wait, though, he went to West Point. I mean, half of their generals went to West Point. I mean, these were people who thought they were patriots. They were fighting for something they believed in, and I think it's a shame that a country is split like that. But it happened. But it came back together again, and for that split to be reopened stupidly does not make any sense to me at all. Those statues are a part of history, and for both sides.
I
And,
agree.
and to take those down, to me, is absolute sacrilege.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. No, I think people need to respect who's been here and the wars that were fought in the name of, because that's why they're here now. Bottom line.
But I kind of would like to know who these groups are that are insisting they come down. I don't understand their reason for them coming down.
Right. I think they're just part of like the George Soros types. They seem like the far leftist, more like those Antifa freaks, and just a lot of people, in my opinion, that have been programmed and indoctrinated to the false matrix. And a lot of this is the propaganda. They seem like they're very fascists, although they say they're anti-fascism, but they seem to me like they're extremely fascist themselves. So it's very strange to watch this, but this thing has been bubbling up for a while now. It started with the Obama administration, and I think it just got out of control when Trump was running for office, and now you're seeing them. They're just trying to gut and destroy this country. And what amazes me is that why do they hate this country enough to destroy it that way? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, and it's sort of like thousands and thousands of white people died so that the black people could have equality. Why are they doing this? I mean,
it's insane. Yeah, exactly. And even the Muslims were slave masters to the black race. I mean, over there. So it wasn't like, they always blame the whites, but it's really not about the whites at all. So there's definitely polarization going on and what I call enemy patterning that needs to be resolved. But I keep saying it's a species war. And this is what I mean by vibration and frequency and education of consciousness. Because if people are expanded at the higher level of consciousness, they're not going to be arguing like this, Barbara. They can agree to disagree, and they can ascend and keep going. But this craziness, this hostile crap needs to dissolve. And that's where it's coming from, in my opinion. It's who's done the spiritual work and who hasn't. That's what it boils down to. I don't care what name, race, religion, or whatever. It's just about evolution.
No, I agree with you totally. And when you look at two parties, fighting like they're fighting, these people were elected to help to guide our country, and it's like, you did this, so we're doing that. Now that's grade school, that's kindergarten.
Yep.
And come on, you've got people who trusted you to go out there and to help this country move forward, not play it like the Senate and the Congress, like they're, it's the playground. It just I don't understand it.
Yeah, they undermine everything he does right now. It's just to me, it's just nothing but treason. That's the bottom line. When you don't support the president, I don't care what president it is, it's treason at this point in the continuum. So that's why you have to treat it. That's the way I would treat it.
Well,
If they're being destructive and they're obstructing things that are, that are very critical to this world and this timeline in our country, then it needs to be looked at.
it does, and I think that everybody's into their own thing that they aren't calling a screeching halt to it and saying, okay, let's stand back and see what's happening here, because we have to adjust this somehow so that we can start moving forward again. Because I think you're absolutely right. I think we've been shoved back about 20 years.
I get it so clearly. It's not, I get the frequency and everything associated with it, atmospheric wise. Yeah, definitely. It's very bothersome, actually.
Well, we've gone backwards, and the reality is that there's such excitement and such potential with moving forward. And we have the tools, and we have the people, and we have everything that, I mean, if you stopped all of this infighting and you started to work, we wouldn't have Appalachia anymore. I mean, we send tons of food overseas, and I'm not saying that that's not a good thing to do. It is a good thing to do, but we have people starving in this country. Why aren't we taking care of them?
Exactly. I agree. Well, it's getting to be illegal to even feed the homeless or give them donations or whatever. So, they started fining people for feeding the homeless.
And what country is it that is, God, is it Germany or is it England, where if someone is pregnant with a Down syndrome child, they have to abort it?
Wow, I'm not sure, but I would assume it's the UK, because they're kind of hard on that stuff too. I don't know offhand.
Yeah, they are forcing.
I think they have death panels too, don't they?
I don't know about that, but I taught Down syndrome children. So, and in my opinion, Down syndrome children are a half step towards the next level of evolution. They have an extra chromosome, and at some point children will be born with the extra pair, but they're the half step, and these kids are so full of love that it's unbelievable. And to force people to have abortions when it's a Down syndrome child, I mean, that's murder.
Yeah, I think they're trying to engineer an awful lot. It reminds me of Gattaca. That movie, if you ever saw that movie, Gattaca. But everything is pretty much like that, where everything is becoming engineered, and you pick and choose what kind of child you want. So.
Oh yeah, color hair, color eyes, the whole thing.
Genetic makeup and everything else associated, and I see that too. But I also see that coming down the pike if they get more involved with the transhumanism program. So it'd be interesting to see where this all takes off at the point that I'm looking at it for, because right now, as I said, it feels like it's going in reverse. Everything feels like we're going in reverse. Something's pulling us back from where we're supposed to be going. And it's very strange. It's a very strange thing that I'm picking up on. So.
Well, could it be that we're being pulled back because we're at the wrong brink?
I think that what's happened is, and this sounds like a stretch, but I feel like it's CERN has changed something a little bit to a point where we're in the wrong location. We're not in the right location on a galactic level. But although things will realign themselves, I think that they've tried to divert the course of ascension, and they've tried to divert things to a point where the frequencies are altered and modulated, so they can control and manipulate reality a little bit better. And I think that's where the 20-year thing comes in, where it feels like everything's going backwards because the vibration doesn't sync up with what I know and what I resonate with as a galactic celestial frequency. So that's the way I'm looking at it. And I can just tell by the frequencies of the cosmos and meteor showers and solar activity.
I can see how that could be what's happening. I feel strongly that they aren't in control of what they're doing. So what is frightening is, instead of stopping and taking a step back, they keep going forward, and they keep making mistake after mistake.
Yep, exactly.
You make a mistake and you decide to. It reminds me of I painted the front door of my mother's house. I painted it white, and I wanted to do red trim inside it. So, being the artist that I am, and that's said in jest, I started painting before the paint was dry, so the red paint turned pink. And in order to make it red, I had to keep going, and then I would go outside the lines, so to speak, so I expanded the lines, and before you knew it, we had a solid red front door.
Really? Oh, wow.
It was
That's
kind of
funny.
like every mistake I had to expand it a little bit more and some of the interior was a little pinker than the exterior.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, my mother took a look at it and said, I thought you were just going to do little, lines around here and there. And I said, well, that's the way it started. Um,
And you
but my
changed the vibration, the whole thing.
Yeah, I said my creative juices just flowed a little bit more than I had to than was appropriate. And she said, "And did you tape it?" And I said, "I'm an artist. I don't tape."
Oh, that's funny.
I now tape.
I'm like that too. And I'll tell you what, I'm dangerous with a paintbrush because I love to paint. If it's a really cool color too, I'll
Mhm.
find all sorts of stuff to paint around the house if I get my hands on a cool paint.
Oh yeah, no, that was one of the that was an extreme lesson for me, and it was interesting because it was like, oh damn, it's turning pink. The white wasn't dry. I wanted bright red, and when I got done, I said to my mother, well, it's really more important to have a solid red, feng shui-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and she just looked at me and she said, you messed up. I said, oh, big time.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, no, that was, well, maybe it was meant that we had a red front door, but the center of it was pink. Um,
Well, that is feng shui. You're right about that. They use the red doors in China, right?
oh yeah, it,
So
it's
yeah.
it
Go ahead.
symbolizes, going into the heart that
Mhm.
you're going into the heart of the house. So yeah, it's red.
I think it's also
Um,
for abundance, if I'm not mistaken. I like violet. I have a violet door.
oh,
It's
well
more
that
transmutational, but that's more of my craft background too. It's just my magical me.
well
I like the vibration.
when I was painting here, I had the guy start painting it. It's bright red, and it's my
Hmm.
front door. And when he got done with that, I said, well, do the hallway too, because that's a really pretty color. And he got done with the hallway, and I said, do the bathroom too, because it all leads straight ahead. So, you know, do the bathroom as well. And we got done, and he said, I'm getting dizzy. I can't paint any more of this red. And my son
Wow.
took a look at it, and he said, and my grandson said, what color red is that? And I looked at Thomas, and he was young then, and I said, for you, it's fire engine red. And afterwards, my son said, and for a grown up, I said, oh, it's whorehouse red for sure.
How funny. Oh
So
no. Well,
it's bright red.
but that's interesting. Some people are triggered by colors. So makes me wonder if he doesn't have a program running or something because colors can trigger people on a conscious, subconscious level.
Absolutely.
So I wonder
Absolutely.
if that was something to do with whether I don't know if he was in the military or not, but it just strikes me as something interesting. When people have
Um,
that.
well, Thomas is only 14, so no
Okay.
military
Oh,
yet.
that's right. That's the one. Okay, yeah.
And
But
my son did not make it into the military. He's a lawyer.
hmm
Um, so and I say that with pride. I also sneer now and then, but more pride than anything else.
hmm
Um, but it's yeah, the colors are really, and people don't even understand how important the colors are.
Oh, I
I
know.
and that blows me away. Why isn't that taught in school? Why aren't the chakras taught in school? Why
Because
aren't
they're not mystery schools, and I always said that too. Yet the kids need to be in mystery schools day one, so that they can understand the metaphysical realms, because that's what we're dealing with. I mean, this whole world is a multidimensional design.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, they really don't teach anything. Quite honestly, it's amazing that they grow up and even know how to do anything,
No,
like tie their shoe.
I have, the standard, 12 years, and then I have 4 years of college, and I have two master's degrees, and I can honestly say that everything I know now and that I have learned, I did after school, and it's personal experience and personal instruction and personal research.
Hmm
Although I am certified to be a teacher, and so, but none of the techniques that I learned as a teacher do I use as I teach, if I'm teaching a class or a workshop or individuals. I don't use any of that stuff. So it was I tell people I paid the money and I got the piece of paper, but I didn't learn a thing. It's life that has enabled me to learn what I now learn. what I now, share. And so, I may have been a teacher at birth because Lord knows school did not make me a teacher. I think I was born a teacher.
Oh, yeah, you were always a teacher. Yeah, I agree with that. No, nothing makes you anything here. We just become what we're supposed to be. It's like an uncovering of who we really are by just being in the environment.
But it's so, I run up against so many people that literally at 40, 50, 60, I don't know what I should be. And it's like, holy mackerel.
Wow. That's interesting. Well, I think it's because they probably have led a life that was misdirected. That's a shame, but at least eventually they catch up, but that's good. But yeah.
Well, they know they don't know what they should be, but you're pre-programmed before you come in.
Mm-hmm. Well, usually you set your divine ascension blueprint before you enter onto the timeline. And that's the thing. If you're aware of that, you set the whole thing up yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you chart it.
And you can change it too, and that's the beauty of it.
But when you get somebody who's sitting in front of you who has a job that they hate and they don't know what they should do and they don't know what should I be, and then you have to take them back and say, okay, when you were a child, what did you want to do? What did you have fun doing? What were the things that gave you the greatest pleasure? Because those were the things that you were pre-programmed for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I painted. I did, I taught my dolls school, and I taught, and I had a church service for all the animals every Sunday.
Wow, that's so cute.
And I also wanted to be a cowgirl. I did not go that direction, but I painted the mandalas, and put them out there. I became a school teacher and then a teacher, and I'm an ordained minister. So,
yep.
Those are the things that give me the greatest pleasure, and those are the things that keep me energized and keep me going and keep me moving forward. And the same with you, I'm sure. What did you want to be if you grew up?
Well, I always loved animals. I wanted to be a vet for a long time, and then I know that it was always about music too. I'm a musician, and also always being, I was always psychic. I mean, naturally psychic, intuitive. So it seems to me like I just grew and evolved with my skills, and that all morphed into healing arts, martial arts, writing, and I was always writing poetry. So that all morphed into the now, pretty much. So yeah, I think I did go the course of what I was supposed to do as a ascended multidimensional being. There's no doubt about that, with the exception of the covert technology. That was a surprise that I never thought I'd get pulled into. But most of it, everything that I've been doing here, yeah, it's been exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, in my opinion.
I would tend to agree with you. And I think that if people are more attuned to what their kids appear to have talents and gifts for when they're very, very young, up to 3 or 4, then if you encourage those aspects of life, they can't help but have a rich, blissful life because they're following their bliss. I had a cousin who he went to college and he was in the military, and he loved ice skating, and he taught ice dancing. And his father was a doctor, and his father kept, scoffing and, get a real job and whatever. And Steve never did. He just kept doing what he loved to do. And there was always the money there. He wasn't rich, but there was always the money there. And he followed his bliss, and he did with his life what he was meant to do with his life. And, and so many of us are bent by teachers, by parents, by society, by the environment, by culture to, you have to get a job and make a living and have children and die. And that's not the case. You're here to grow and to experience, and it's meant to be a joyful place.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And doing what makes you happy, everything else aligns with you. The universe does provide. There's no doubt about it. That's why people are so miserable in these mundane jobs they have. They don't want to be there, and they're not going to they're not going to get out of it until they just break orbit and let go of the fear and move on. Even if it means, sucking it up financially for a little while until their dreams really manifest.
Yeah, and we make it sound very easy. I know it's hard.
Oh, it is.
But when you're caught in a mechanism that is just eating you up, the only way you can get out is by breaking free. And if you have to be, if you have to be a gardener, or if you have to be, whatever you need to be to keep body and soul together until you can find the direction you need to go. And sometimes it's really hard, but things like hypnotherapy really does help to take you back to childhood, to figure out what those talents and skills and gifts were. If your parents aren't alive to give you that information, then use hypnotherapy to go backwards. I have always wanted to play the piano. I'm tone deaf. I've always wanted to play the piano, and I had lessons when I was, I don't know, in the 4th, 5th, 6th grade, and then nothing. And I've always felt like I should be playing the piano, and I think that this next year, when winter comes, I may get me a keyboard and take piano lessons, because I think it's a part of me that I really should try to embrace.
Oh yeah, you should definitely. I play by ear. I've always been able to play keyboards by ear.
Oh my gosh.
So I must have I think I've done it before in another life, because when I play, it's like a harpsichord too. I go old, very, very old kind of music when I play. I remember one time I started playing on my friend's organ, and she walks up and she goes, "Where do you come from? Where did that come from?" And I can tell you, because it's just, I just have it, so it's there. But I never ever had a lesson in keyboards or piano, but I know how to play it.
Oh, wow.
So that's something. But the flute I did. The flute I trained in. But yeah, it's interesting. So I know my sister used to take lessons, and she used to get angry at me because she wouldn't learn anything, and I just walk over and be able to play songs that she was trying to practice.
Yeah,
without reading the music.
And it's funny. I have a sister who's 3 years younger. We have the same voice. Same voice.
Yeah, interesting.
She can sing. I can't carry a tune. I got a couple of questions here that kind of surprised me, but it's somebody wrote to me and said, you and Solaris have been doing this your entire life. How can any of us expect to even be able to understand what you're talking about half the time? And how do we get there if we want to get there?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I assume everybody understands what we're talking about, for one, so I guess that's my bad.
To a degree, I think they do. But I think, you get into multidimensional and transformational ascension and yada, yada, yada. Right. And I think we lose some people. But yeah, I've been working on this all my life, and so have you. But for somebody who is just, now the light bulb has just gone on, how do they get there? I could tell you step by step what I did, but that wouldn't get you to where you need to be. It would get you, and it wouldn't get you to where I am. So what do we tell people who are desirous of understanding all of this, but don't know how to start?
Well, I would say read up on ascension, start studying mysticism, metaphysics, do meditation, start going on and researching areas of healing work or whatever modalities they're interested in doing, because each one is a step-by-step process in your own evolution. So that's really what it boils down to, is really following spirit and paying attention to the world of the mystical world. And so far as multidimensional realities go, it's all about spirit. So as you progress on your spiritual path, you start to open up other doorways to higher consciousness. So it really, I would say, the easiest way would be going through the doorway to meditation, starting with meditation and going into healing modalities, reading about mysticism, reading about ritual, or if they're interested in that. That's, I think ritual is just basically it's training your mind to set the intent to manifest a reality. That's really what it boils down to. But it's just a procedure in learning. I mean, that's all there is to it. So just read and study and then do. That's what I would do. That's how it always started with me. I started cracking open books when I was very young.
Yeah, so did I, and I have to admit that I still read at least 2, if not 3 or 4 books a week.
That's great. Yeah, it's awesome.
So, well, I have no choice. I do the interviews.
Well, yeah, but still, it's good. Yes, you make yourself read. That's good.
Yes, but again, it's a great way to compel me to read the material so I don't sound like an idiot when I'm talking to an author. But and I don't know. I tend to sort of, I will, if just set loose on my own, I will find an author I love and then read everything he's written. So, and I'm hoping that it's 30 or 40 books. But this way, this has been a self-imposed schoolroom for me, and I'm just absolutely so delighted that I finally, after 73 years, figured out a cool way to learn. So it isn't something that happens overnight, and I think that's an important thing for everybody to understand. This doesn't happen overnight, and it's
a progression.
Absolutely. And there's always another portal to open. There's always another level to add. And I don't believe that we ever are finished, because if you stop learning, then you stop growing. And especially if you're in a field where you're dealing with other people, you have to have deeper, more expansive material to continue to share, to continue to teach, because if you stop learning, then you don't have any more to teach these people, and then they think you don't know what you're talking about, and because they've gone beyond you. So it's a constant learning process. It's a constant stretching, and so long as you're learning, it doesn't really matter, the area, so much as the fact that you're expanding yourself. And I agree with Solaris. I think that meditation is a great thing to do. I think teaching yourself is even more important. Oftentimes when you get into groups, they tend to become cliquish, and then they become restricted, and then they hold you back rather than allow you to flow forward. So,
yeah, very true.
I would caution people on that. But sometimes a group is good too, especially if it's a meditation group, because everybody benefits from everybody else's energy.
Right.
And
well, even your remote viewing group, that's even something that person was asking about. That would be a great start right there.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing is that you're in a group of people, but you're all alone by yourself as well. So that it's you do benefit from people like Solaris who takes part from time to time, and I would say probably 50% of the people involved in it are heavy duty meditators. So that you get this wonderful surge of energy, and you just kind of flow on the coattails of everybody else, and you see where you can go, and once you understand you can go there, you can do it on your own. So that it's really a cool thing to do, and it's a lot of fun, and spiritual development, spiritual evolution is supposed to also be fun. It's called enlightenment. It means enlighten up, lighten up, let go of those things, those burdens, those things that are holding you back, and go beyond them. And it isn't necessary for anyone to even reach out into the cosmos, and unless you're Solaris, and that's where you're meant to be. I mean, everybody's meant to do and be different things. We're all unique pieces of an amazing puzzle. And so to follow your own inner truths and go in the direction that is appropriate for you as an individual, and complete your journey along your pathway and not somebody else's, is really important. And the other question somebody asked me was, okay, you're talking about following your passions. What if you don't have any idea what they are? How do you find out what they are?
That's a good question too. Well, I think you mentioned something about regression for looking into something like that. That's not necessarily a bad idea. I would say that's a hard question to answer, because you never know what your passion is until you try it, right? At least for me anyway. I would say just, if you have interests, maybe not a passion, but if you have an interest in something, that would be a good door to open, right? Something you've never done before, or a bucket list or something. If you've never studied a certain subject and it feels right to you, that would be a good avenue to go down. Same thing with martial arts, it's that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, no, I think martial arts is it is a meditation.
Oh yeah, it's really powerful. Yeah.
You're putting yourself in another zone. Tai Chi is the gentlest form of it that I know of, but yoga as well. But I've often told people that in order for you to get where you need to be spiritually, the creative channels have to be open within you. And oftentimes when people are stressed out, when they are depressed, when they are struggling, they stop doing everything creative until they have time to be creative because life is so difficult. And the reality is when you stop doing creative things, you shut down that creative channel, and then spirit has no way of flowing into and manifesting within your physical reality.
Mm-hmm.
So something simple like coloring. It's funny, I've been telling people to color mandalas for the last 20 years. They finally did a study. They said it turns out that coloring mandalas is a form of relaxation and meditation.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I would imagine like the Tibetan monks. And also, they have coloring books now for adults.
Oh, absolutely. And that qualifies as being a creative endeavor. And
Mm-hmm.
what happens when you open that creative channel and you're focusing on coloring for want of another thing, that's the time when your consciousness can give you subtle hints where inspiration comes through when you least expect it.
Mm-hmm.
And that can give you an idea as to where you might yet take the creative process. I try really hard to do something of a creative nature every day. And
Mm-hmm.
when I find that I am standing still and things aren't moving as fast as I want them to, I take a look and I say, okay, what am I doing that's creative? And if I come up empty, it's like, okay, I'm going to go out and pull weeds. I'm going to garden. I'm going to work on some knitting or some crocheting or something else, or I'm going to cook something, or I'm going to rearrange my closets alphabetically, or what. It has to be creative, and you have to have fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
once you've opened that channel and that creative energy is the spiritual energy that is flowing into your life, then you're going to stumble across the things that are fascinating for you. And it could be antworm farming.
Mm-hmm.
And if it gives you joy, it can make you rich. I mean, not in the desert, obviously, but it's sort of like find something that calls to you and be more perceptive and understand that when things call to you, they can call to you in very simple ways.
Mm-hmm.
It can be something you read in a magazine that you keep going back to and are fascinated by. It can be music that just takes you to a different place, and then finding out how that music is made or what that instrument is or what the music is that's playing, and is the rhythm of the music something that resonates to your spirit and sets you dancing inside, or pay attention to these things. And it doesn't cost money to do this. It
Mm-hmm.
takes time.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great
And
suggestion. Well, what also comes to mind is just if people get healing work done, I think that helps align their energy. I think that people are kind of lost or maybe feeling disconnected because they're not aligned on their spiritual design. So the chakras might not be aligned, or there might be something off with the meridians. Excuse me. So that, in my opinion, I think might help them if they get some healing work, and that would kind of reset their compass to see if they have more of a connection to what we call the higher self or the oversoul, to give them more data.
well, absolutely. And when you're having, at least when you're having a Reiki treatment or any kind of energy work done, if you relax into it, if you quiet your mind, and you'll see things, you'll feel things, you'll get
Mhm.
suggestions.
Yeah.
I mean, that spirit within you wants to communicate.
Oh, absolutely.
I
No, that
mean,
would be a good one. Like, you talked about the regression, but I think the healing work in combination with the regression would be very helpful for a lot of people.
oh, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be fine art. It can be any sort of a creative process.
Mm-hmm.
So that I can justify just about anything, folding laundry, if you do it well. But it's finding a way to create a bridge and a portal for your higher consciousness, the spirit within, to give you the inspiration to go in the direction that you need to go in. And it's not something that happens overnight. It's something that you build. It's something that you build upon. And when, a bridge is not built, in one day. It takes
Mm-hmm.
time. It takes planning. It takes patience. It takes, and lots of times developing patience is part of the process of listening to your higher consciousness, paying attention. The other thing that you can do is keep a journal of your dreams, because your dreams are a place where higher consciousness does give you subtleties. It does tell you things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, dream logs are very, very important, or shadowing the self, things like that are very significant. And also people that you're around. I mean, if somebody has the wrong people around them from day to day, it's not going to motivate them to do something positive usually. They might want to look at their patterning, their life, and how they're functioning from day to day.
Yeah, cheerleaders are important. They really are. And if you don't have cheerleaders around you, you're just not going to make those touchdowns. It's kind of like, I don't know why you're doing that. Nothing ever works when you do that, and yada yada. So why bother? But rather than not go in a direction that you feel, drawn towards, perhaps drawing or finding people who are more I'm not saying cut people out of your life. I am saying add more people to your life that are of a more positive nature, that can get in there and say, well, I don't know, but if that's what you feel you should do, I'll hold your coat, and I may try it with you if it looks good. Just somebody that is not going to discourage you.
Right.
And I mean, this field does become strange and wonderful and weird. And I mean, you're one of the few people I can talk to.
Well, that's good. I know. I always enjoy talking to you. It's just nice and relaxing, and just like tonight, it's like I'm at your house having tea or coffee.
Yeah, or something.
I'm telling you.
I did kind of want to take some time to talk about interdimensional chat. Now that we've talked about, we've told people about, how to get involved. I want to take it another step, because there are energies out there that are not earthly. They are otherworldly, and they are accessible to us as well. And we can ride them. We can draw information from them, and it can be very safely done, but you have to be very careful. And what are some of the guidelines for someone who is getting to the point where they are going in either interdimensional or further? What are some of the guidelines you would give them before they, jump off the spaceship, so to speak?
Well, I would have them set their parameters up just like anything else. You want to make sure that you create the proper shielding when you're traveling in any form of dimensional space. So a lot of that has to do with meditation, affirmations, setting the intent, and just putting the energy in motion to set up your own grid work, which means you're protecting yourself and you're shielding yourself wherever you go. Some people are kind of reckless, not everybody, but there are people out there who just kind of travel anywhere, and they don't really shield themselves, and maybe they don't think they need it, but they wind up getting hitchers as they return. So I would say that it's very important that they have a protocol, just like you do in your house and you secure things in your home. Your body's the same way. So you want to make sure you set the intent. If you're astral projecting or you're doing anything like that, you want to set the parameters up and make sure that you're, bringing in divine energies to shield and protect you, and make sure that your journey is safe without incident. So those sort of things I would say are the biggest thing when you're traveling and you're experimenting in these areas. Also watching heavy drugs or alcohol, because those will create a distortion and a wormhole when you're trying to navigate. So I know some people are really big on the ayahuasca and they're big on a lot of things, and I can tell you that's their own personal thing. But I can tell you just from my own observation of people, I think that drugs create a distortion, and that they should be very, very careful if they're doing that sort of thing, because you can get really lost.
Yes. No, I totally agree. I know that some of the highs that I have gotten from meditation, and especially when I worked on the mandalas. I mean, I'm not exactly sure where those designs came from, but I, excuse me, I know that it was off-world. I am positive they came from off-world, and I have never felt more energized in my entire life. I mean, protected, absolutely. And before I went into any of the drawing or even the painting that was done, it was it wasn't a ritual. It was a part of my process. And I guess it was sort of a ritual, but it was just a part of how I went into it all. And I think that you need to take this stuff very seriously, because there was a time a long time ago where I was new to the program, so to speak, and basically, somebody said, "What do you do for protection?" And I stupidly said, "Well, I'm a child of light. Nothing can get to me." Well, it got to me and it beat the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally got to the doctor, he asked me if I had been in a bar fight, and I said, "I don't go to bars, you know that." And it was my family doctor, and he stood me up and he walked me over to the mirror and he pulled the collar of my blouse down, and there were black and blue fingerprints of a hand, not just fingertips. The whole damn hand was there in black and blue.
Oh my gosh! Wow,
And
that's incredible.
he said, "What are you up to?" And I said, "I think I'm back to square one and figuring out how to protect myself."
Oh my goodness! Wow, that's hardcore.
It was very
That's very
hardcore.
interesting. Mm-hmm.
I went through a horrible time where all I could hear was, "You're going to die, you're going to die." And I said, "No, I'll take a bad cold, but I'm not dying. I got too much to do."
Wow, it
And
almost sounds like a ghost attacked you that way from what you're describing.
I think it was a psychic attack.
Really? Wow. Well, I don't
Um,
discount that because the more powerful you get, they'll come after you.
and it was a wake-up call to me that was just profound, and I no longer take things in a cavalier way.
Mm-hmm.
I am very serious about what I do. I mean, I will joke and I will do a lot. I will be lighthearted about everything. But if I'm going to lead the distant viewing meditation, there is work that goes on before I open that whole thing up.
Oh yeah.
And I to my knowledge, no one has had a bad experience. No one has said anything to me, and I'm pretty sure if a bad experience happened that they would. And I would slam it down if that happened.
Right.
That would be it. And so it's a matter of, as you said, protecting yourself and understanding how to protect yourself, whether it is in prayer, whether it is in meditation, whatever method that works for you that you feel secure with.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes setting up mirrors all around you so that anything sent towards you just gets bounced back to whoever is sending it at you.
Mm-hmm. Those work really well too. Yeah, shield, and you can do that psychically. If you talk about that, yeah, those are good.
Absolutely.
There's cylinders. That's a good one. Putting people in cylinders for a while. Yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do on an alchemical level. But then there's the technological stuff I was interfaced with, and nothing in the world can shield you from that.
Well, do you know how you got dragged into that? I mean,
well, they triangulated and basically inducted me through the signal. It was a program. It was a covert program that literally triangulated my electromagnetic field and neural circuitry. And it was satellite-driven technology that interfaced me into the technology. I didn't have to leave my house. And my point is, I had a lot of light workers later on, say, "Well, I don't understand. Aren't you protected?" That same kind of thing. Of course I'm protected, but they triangulate. This is a warfare program. This is a military type of warfare program. It doesn't matter where you are on the map, but they're going to target you. They're going to get you. It doesn't matter how many times you pray, because this is about combat, and this is also about what they're doing here with technology. It's not a supernatural thing. It's a technological thing. So big difference. But yet I've heard a lot of people on the spiritual path saying that, "Oh, well, that would never happen to me." Well, if they decide to pluck you out, it would, because there's no way to hide from it. You cannot run and hide from that program.
I think that the major thing is to survive it.
Right, and that's pretty much what I did. I survived it, and I came back with a vengeance after I was resurrected. So, it's like, it just kind of pissed me off, those units. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that you were involved into some frightening stuff.
It was very hardcore. Yeah, I'm surprised I made it out, and that's what I mean by when you read my bio. That was my bio prior to my induction, which is still valid. But it's interesting looking back because it was a reflection. It was like a flashback. It was like a blast from the past. For a second I was like, yeah, that's right. I've done all that. Yes, that's me. Yes, but and then you go to the other levels of covert technology and all this other stuff that they pulled me through. So very interesting. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in protection in all forms and designs, whether it's on this dimension or interdimensional or wherever.
Now, there are a lot of things on this planet that I truly believe are portals, are portals to other dimensions, are portals to other realities. And most people just walk by them or don't experience them, but people who are sensitive are drawn to them, which doesn't, and being sensitive doesn't mean that they're prepared for them.
Right.
So, and lots of times they stumble in, which can be a very frightening experience. And I think there are a lot of people in mental institutions, and the reasons they're there is because they stumbled into another dimension without realizing it.
That's highly possible. Or they've been through a mind control program. That's another probability or a possibility too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. And everything's radio frequency, as you well know. So whether it's manufactured by mankind or another, the one thing I can tell you is that when you expand in consciousness, you're opening up more bands of energy so that you're able to access, like an antenna and a transmitter, everyone and everything around you. And that includes the highways of mankind's transmissions. So I think a lot of people who are, you're right, aren't prepared to access those levels start to have a bleed through and start experiencing those things and maybe not knowing how to ride them out or how to switch them off when they're on. That's one thing too. But then there's the other mind control stuff that they deliberately do to stalk people, like the gaslighting, gang stalking, and targeted individuals. So that's a different animal also. But yeah, I always wonder how many people are in institutions based on covert technologies.
Well, I would imagine that a lot of them, and I would also imagine that especially you go back a couple hundred years to the mental institutions, especially in England, and I think a lot of those people were experiencing spiritual enlightenment and not understanding how to work with it or what to do with it, and so they were thrown there, in there, just to keep them away from the general population, so they didn't infect them.
I agree. But, I don't know if you know this or not, but David Sarita's wife was recently put in an institution. It's terrible. She was having visions of Christ and doing hardcore meditation, and to a point where she was really just in another orbit in consciousness. And they have her in an institution now. They have her. They labeled her as mentally ill because she's having a spiritual experience. I think this is very serious. I've put it on my Facebook page, and I've been kind of keeping an eye on what David's been going through, because they're really trying to mess with him and really trying to screw with her, force feeding her drugs and everything else. And there's nothing wrong with her. She's having a spiritual experience, from what I understand.
Well, how can they do that without his permission?
I'm not sure. I think somebody must have reported, some kind of a neighbor or somebody says that she was she was talking to herself, or she was doing something where they thought, she's not a danger to herself or her children or anybody else. But it's just, that's what I mean by why are people getting involved, and why is this happening? And why is this woman being held against her will because she has a spiritual experience? That's just that's a witch hunt. I think it needs to be looked at.
Well, I agree with you. It doesn't sound like you have all the information, though.
No, not all of it. I mean, I can get you the article on it. It's some of the stuff that he put out, but yeah.
Sure. I would love to see it. No, that not everybody does stuff like that. Not everybody, I don't want to scare people because, frankly, I never went over the edge like that. And I still, I talk to dead people, and I do astral travel and all of that too, so that it doesn't have to be frightening. But this may be something that she felt it was important for her to do for her own evolution. And it feels like she's where she, frankly, to be honest with you, she's where she needs to be because she's protected and she can just do her thing. It's the force feeding of the medication that is a little scary.
Yeah. Well, it's a strange world we live in. I tell you what, I would like to see everybody calibrated to multidimensional states of being where they're just, everything is smooth running, but it seems to me there's a lot of strangeness, a lot of control, a lot of systems, and, wanting to control, manipulate anyone or anything. So I see a lot of that going on.
Well, if anybody, wants to experience, this kind of energy, and you're not drawn in like a magnet and spit out someplace else, but walking meditations will get you there. If you can find a crop circle that is reasonably new, you can meditate within the crop circle, and especially if you smell ozone, then it's a new crop circle, and that kind of energy will get you there. And get you there by meaning it will take you to another level of awareness within yourself.
Right.
So that and understand it's different for everybody.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So that what I feel like when I get in that spot is very different from what you would feel or Deb would feel, or so that it is a personal experience and it's a good feeling. And if it's not a good feeling, then you're not in the right place, and it's smart to kind of snap out of it and do some some protection and some balancing and some rebalancing. This is not something that you take on lightly. This is something that you choose to dedicate yourself to it, and it doesn't mean that you do it. It doesn't mean that you do this kind of work instead of a job. It means that you have to have a balanced life in order to do this. So there has to be, a security of some sort, and then you allow the spiritual to sort of open up for you. And it does unfold. It does blossom. It does bloom. But again, it takes time. And I think so many people become frustrated because, they're not levitating or...
Well, you know what? They have to stay grounded too. I mean, it's nice to be able to do all these avatar gifts, but as you were saying, it's a step-by-step process through light body and activation in Merkaba and many other levels of spirituality. So it's not something that happens instantaneously. But the grounding is huge because I've seen a lot of flaky people. You and I've had this conversation before. A lot of people out there are very flaky and not very grounded. And I'm super grounded. I think it's my martial arts background mainly, but very, very grounded and spiritual and expanded. And I like that. I don't want to be the woo-woo flaky. So I'm always in control anyway. Even it doesn't matter what dimension I'm in. I have to be in control to the most part, or for the most part. That's me, the control freak.
Well, I have found that and it's funny, when Patrick was alive, he talked about being in stasis and going to another dimension. And when he did that, he truly was in another dimension. And I mean, his body was still here, but his breathing was so slow it didn't look like he was breathing at all. His consciousness had definitely gone to another dimension. And it was fascinating. Every now and then I tagged along, and it was another world. It was fascinating.
Nice. That's really nice.
He was a part of that world, which I found fascinating. And he said he kept saying, well, we're making it ready for the time when the large numbers of people decide to come over all at once. Now, I don't know what that meant. So, it could be that the making ready for, the first thing that came into my mind was there was going to be a horrible war or something and millions were going to die all at once, but that's not what he meant. It had to do with consciousness. He described buildings, he described rooms in buildings, he described the kind of structure they had as far as a system of, not government, because there was no government, but it was more like a committee that took care of things. There was no government. Nice. And not a bad place at all. And I really hope he went there. And I kind of he was so used to it. I suspect that that's where he went.
Certainly sounds like it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a very cool thing. We all create our own castles in our own consciousnesses. We create other dimensions. I mean, our spirit is in essence another dimension. So that we are interdimensional people. Right. Absolutely. In a physical avatar. And you can put the avatar on idle, and you can take a trip, and it's possible to reach with your spirit, not your mind, but your spirit. And there's a difference between the two. If you're thinking this process, you're not meditating. And I think that's one of the hardest things for people for anybody to get into, that thinking a meditation keeps you in the physical, allowing yourself to flow into another level of consciousness, and to not think what's happening, but to experience what's happening is definitely a meditation.
Yeah, I agree. That's well said.
Well, so many people, I can remember when I started meditating, it would be, I'd feel floaty, and then then I would think, I'm meditating, I think.
It's your body, your mental body spinning out of control.
Yeah, as soon as you start thinking, you have pulled yourself back into the mental, the physical, and you're not meditating. So, but letting go and knowing that you were safe does allow you to float into those other realms. And once your spirit is set free, I mean, there is no limit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree.
And I kind of look. I know that you dealt with, or you said you dealt with the Pleiadian energies and Arcturian
healing systems. Mm-hmm.
Now, those were taught in spirit. Those were taught in.
Those were taught by walk-in that I actually studied with. And then when I started doing more and more of my healing work, it started to morph into more of the healing systems. And when I was working with certain initiations in certain groups, I would receive more. They were more than downloads of these type of beings that would connect in with me when I was doing the work with healing others. So that was one of the things that I put down as far as part of the modalities. And the Pleiadian thing was very interesting because I wasn't really big into the woo-woo stuff of Pleiadian stuff, and I actually morphed into one of these types of things in one ceremony one time, and someone actually saw it. But the energies associated are very sound and tonal oriented that work with healing people, and so it was incorporated as a modality for my healing that I was doing at the time. So yeah, those frequencies are very much in resonance with me as a multidimensional being, what I call the soul descension, soul extensions of aspects of me. Yeah, they're still there.
Well, that's the coolest thing. You come in and you have DNA, and that deals with the physicality, but the spirit. I mean, the more you can open to the spirit, and the more that the spirit understands that you can handle the information that is being sent down, and it's amazing how there are awakenings. Now, it doesn't make you someone who can walk on water initially. I can do it so long as it's frozen. I think just a little more work, and I'll be able to do it when it's liquid. Maybe 5 or 6 more lifetimes.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the memory that there have been. I mean, I have memory of flying. And most probably not in this lifetime, but I have memory of flying. I have memory of levitating. I have memory of and almost everyone probably does. And I know that I think the thing that people say, well, I can't do this and I can't do that, but almost every single person who is listening to this show has had an out-of-body experience, and they have. And I'll tell you when you had it. You were probably laying in bed, and you felt as though you were falling, and you reached out to catch yourself because you knew you were falling, and that was your astral body coming back into the physical.
Very true.
And just about everybody I have ever spoken to has had that feeling at one time or another in their life. So,
I totally agree. Yeah.
I mean, we've all had these experiences. We just haven't labeled them. And so, when you get to the point where, I mean, people hear us chatting, but I've been doing this for over 50 years, closing in on 60, and you've been doing it for a gazillion years as well. And Deb's been doing it for easily as long. So you have people that have been, kind of really working with this to get to this point in time. But something, it's the awareness is opening up so rapidly that it probably won't take people as long as it took me to get here. I mean, I had to cut through a lot of garbage in order to get to this point in time, and I know you did too.
Right.
So that we used to be burned at the stake.
Yeah.
And happily, I don't believe that's happening anymore. But if you have the desire and if you have the desire to do this, that's all you need. You don't need money. You don't need to pay for huge classes. You don't need to pay for huge certificates for the walk because they don't mean anything. And the ability to do this, to expand into your own level of awareness in your own place in the universe with your own modalities at your fingertips. Everybody has that ability and that talent. All you need to have is the desire to get there.
Right. I totally agree with that. That's well said. It's well stated.
And,
well, you give them a lot of tools to work with on your show, and that's the good part of what you're doing here. Giving people a lot of good information so that they can explore themselves and go beyond where they're at right now on their own spiritual path.
Yeah, I just hate seeing people being taken advantage of, and I see it all the time. And that's why my website is just a teaching site. Everything's free. It's all there. Take it, use it, or not. It's fine. But when I see people paying thousands of dollars to get ascension this or ascension that, I mean, your book is the best book ever, and it's not expensive.
Thank you.
You should be charging more for that book.
It's all right. It's a small book, though. It's very thin.
It is, but it's very deceiving. It is a thin book, and it is a fast read. And the first time through, it's a good book. The second time through, it's much better. The third time through, it's I didn't see that the first time. And the more times you read through that book, the more levels of understanding you get, the more open your consciousness becomes to the potential you carry within.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of think it's multi-layered myself. Yeah, definitely. I'm glad it affected you that way. I really am. And there's a question there, which book it is. That's the Transmutation Through Ascension.
Yeah, no, it's the greatest book ever.
On Amazon.com, you can purchase it on there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely.
Thank you, Barbara. That means, like I said, that means so much coming from you because you're quite the master teacher. So it's very humbling. Thank you.
Well, it's like, you had Robert Sullivan on your show, I think, a while back, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
And when I was talking to him about, he's written a book called Symbols in the Cinemas. And I said to him, you're giving a tool to humanity here. You're giving them archetypes and patterns that not only will they recognize in movies, but they'll recognize in their everyday life and be able to change their life to become a different character in the story of their life if they want to, so that you're giving them the tools to recognize and then change their life. So this is an absolute gift to humanity. And he said, I didn't think that. I said,
isn't that interesting?
That makes it an even better gift.
Exactly.
So I think that, all of us are working spiritually in one form or another within our lives. We don't recognize it. And as soon as you start recognizing it and then walking the philosophies and understanding the universal laws that are there that apply to everybody all the time, then magic starts to happen.
Exactly.
And it's amazing. And the universe does take care of us.
Oh, absolutely. Spirit provides.
Unless, of course, you decide to steer yourself and go in your own direction. And then when you hit the brick wall, the universe will provide again. But I have found those times that I was positive I knew what the universe wanted me to do, and I went off track, so to speak, and then hit the brick wall. All I heard was laughter on the other side. It was kind of like, did you know I was going to mess up like this? And it was like, of course.
That's so funny.
I swear, I sometimes envision that there's a boardroom, and everybody in the boardroom is helping me to work on whatever it is I'm working on, and so long as I am taking information and using it wisely, they keep feeding me information, and then when I get a bright idea that I got this, thank you, I know where to take this now. I hear a door slam, and I know they've all gone out to play golf because, and as soon as I screw up, they'll be back to help me put pieces together. But it is, and all I have to do these days is hear the door slam, and it's like, all right, I'm going to stop here and reconsider what I'm doing, because I'm no longer becoming inspired. I'm thinking I know what I should do instead of knowing. And it's that that knowing and not being able to explain it, that is what the inspiration is.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking I know, it's I'm going to have a bumper sticker made. It's when in doubt, don't.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I really, and that's actually mine. And the other one is always trust your gut unless you've had Mexican food the night before.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah, those are great.
Unless you're talking to a Mexican and then you put Chinese food in there or Italian food in there, but it's sort of but when in doubt, don't has served me very, very well, because when there is a question, I know that something isn't right, and to pull yourself up when that question mark is there and say, okay, I need to reconsider, I need to rethink, instead of trying to think your way through it and analyzing it and making a quote unquote informed decision. Usually you end up having to retreat and taking a different pathway. So, but this lifetime is a wonderful, magical place, and if you let the spiritual be a part of it, and let the other realms add to the vibrancy of your being, this is a magical place.
Oh, absolutely. It really is. No, I agree. Take time to appreciate it, because it's going quick,
Yeah, it is. I mean, when I realized that my son is now 50 years old, it gives me chills,
Wow. You seem so young, though. It's interesting.
Well, that's what I keep telling him. I said, something must be wrong here, because you can't possibly be 50. And
yeah, really.
And he's got an 11 and a 14-year-old. I'm fine with having grandchildren that age. It's a son that's 50 that just, I looked at him and I said, the last time I saw him, I said, you have gray hair. That's not appropriate. I don't have gray hair, so we should fix your head.
Oh, that's so funny.
And he said, no, Mom, I earned these. And I said, well, fine, earn them, but let them be a different color. But it's a cool thing. But I want to talk just a few minutes on, you have another book, 1 Million Miles.
Yeah, 1 Million Miles to Midnight.
1 Million Miles to Midnight. Another phenomenal book, an unusual read, but it's also a teaching tool. So, definitely get that one too. And your radio show is?
I have Hyperspace at excuse me while I cough here. KCOR Digital Radio Network. That's Hyperspace at 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time on Fridays. And then, of course, Raven Star's Witching Hour on Saturday here at freedomslips.com in Studio A, and that's 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time.
And she has fabulous guests on.
I do, and I can't remember who's coming up as I lose my voice this hour, but I've got some really good guests. Between you and I, we're going to lose our voice tonight. But yeah, tune in. It'll be a great show. Oh, I've got Mike Pfeiffer coming in on KCOR on Hyperspace. That I do remember. So that should be fun. He's going to be talking about the Twilight Zone series and Rod Serling. So he runs the museum. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I have heard about him.
You should have him on your show if you haven't had him on already. He's really good.
I have not.
I'll get you his contact information if you like it.
Oh, yeah, I'd appreciate that.
I think you'd enjoy him. I really do. He's great.
Definitely. And you've already had Dr. Sam on your show.
He did. He's fantastic. Oh, he's great.
Have you had Klaus Donna on yet?
Not yet, but I'm working on it.
I've got his information.
Okay, great.
I will happily share that. Yeah, he's going to be on my show sometime soon, and he's in the Philippines right now. They're 12 hours ahead of us there. So we're working hard on trying to figure out time and day, because it'll be Monday for me, but Tuesday for him. But yeah, wow. I will share his information with you. He's a cool man. Excellent. Sounds fantastic. Do you know what he does? He does giants and all sorts of stuff, but he's the out of place artifacts too. He's got a book on out of place artifacts that here it is. It's digging for answers and finding more questions. Klaus Donna. Very nice. Yeah, he's really an amazing guy. So yeah, I think that what I love about doing this work is everybody shares contacts so that we can get amazing people on our shows and put their information out there and learn from them too. So
absolutely.
That's the cool stuff.
It is. It's fantastic. Well, I certainly appreciate you having me on tonight. It's been wonderful to chat with you and be on board with you tonight.
Well, I appreciate your stepping in. I had a guest that I don't know if he's gone interdimensional, but I know he was in Russia and he's going to be in a couple of other places, and he just didn't think that he'd be able to find what time to present himself, basically.
Oh, that's funny. Well, if he's traveling, yeah, it's kind of hard to connect in, probably.
Yeah, no, he's a charming man, and his first name is Valerie, and I can't remember or pronounce his last name. So, but he will be on sometime shortly. I've got everybody booked up until December. So.
Well, you sound like me. I do the same thing. I have so many people booked. It's not even funny.
It's a cool thing, and then I realized, oh my gosh, there are really only 2 weeks in December because doesn't Freedom Slips take off for Christmas and New Year's?
Yep, they do. That's right. Thanks for reminding me.
So that those 2 dates I don't have to worry about.
Well, unless it falls on the day. Apparently, your show falls on those days. Is that it?
Yeah, Monday is Christmas Day, and then the following week, the Monday is New Year's Day.
Oh wow! So you lucked out. Excellent.
I did.
I did last year. I had that same thing going on, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah.
Well, no, Freedom Slips. Have you thought of doing the video with Freedom Slips?
I thought about it, but I don't need to. It's not relative. Not for me anyway. I put my witch files out in video once in a while, so I do those.
I really like radio. I
do too. Yeah, I don't really need the audio or the visuals that much, and late night scary.
Thanks so much, Solaris. I so appreciate your filling in tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Barbara. It's been wonderful.
Good night now.
Night. Night, everybody.